Hello there, it's Mike, and this week we have Jesse joining us on episode 185 to discuss Marvel Phase 4 thus far. This week on Cup of Rad. Hey, Jesse, guess what? You're back.
I am. Thank you so much for having me back. It is always a pleasure to be in your presence. I mean...
Well, I know it's quite the marvel to display.
I see what you did there. I gotta for it. Oh, here we go.
I gotta steal some of those puns from you.
Not all of them, please. I mean, it's all I have.
Not all you have.
Well, I mean, it's most of what I have.
Oh, okay.
90% of my shtick is just puns, and as your listeners can attest, discussions at length about starches such as potatoes. But we're not going to get into that.
So have you had onion rings lately?
I have not. When was the last time I had onion rings? It was, well, you know what? It was back in mid-June at the Great Canadian Brew House after watching the new Jurassic World film for a friend's birthday.
Okay.
We had dinner there, and I pretty much always get the onion rings when I go there because it's an insanely huge portion, and I always regret it, but I also can't not. I mean,
fair enough.
So yeah,
fair enough. At least you were able to get them.
I was able to get them. Yes.
So that's always a bonus.
Always a bonus. Always. Yeah. So now I'm just trying to start petitions around various restaurants and establishments in our town to get more onion rings out there. Really bring awareness to the onion ring movement. Establish it as the dominant ring out there,
Well, everyone should at least have one.
Yeah. Little known fact, Tolkien actually toyed with the idea of having onion rings as part of, the Lord of the Rings series, ultimately deciding that was a silly idea and to not go ahead with it, though.
That definitely feels like there should be a parody of that.
Yeah.
It should just be some hobbits working at a fast food restaurant, and someone finds an onion ring buried in the freezer or something. And
well, they have that like Hobbit town set up in New Zealand, right? There should be a food stand there, Lord of the Rings, where they just serve onion rings and onion ring accessories.
Onion ring accessories.
Yes, onion rings and onion ring accessories.
Nothing like walking around with a fried piece of food around your neck the entire day.
Who needs bling when you can have golden onion rings, right?
Now the big question is what kind of batter would be on Lord of the Rings type onion ring? Would it be like the smooth batter, or would it be the crunchy batter?
Oh, wow. You have opened a box, my friend. So you see, I feel like there would be all kinds of onion rings. You're going to have like...
Oh, so
you're
like...
going to have...
a plethora.
There are going to be a plethora of onion rings. You're going to have your smooth. You're going to have your crunchy. You're going to have breaded. You're going to have ones that are just so much batter you're questioning the existence of whether there's a god or not.
That's fair.
Yeah. So...
That's fair.
So, yeah. So, this is the onion ring episode.
That is your food truck. You should just stop doing what you're doing, and you should just open an onion ring food truck.
I guess I could.
That would solve all life's problems.
That would, except the problem of my waistline. That would not solve that problem. That would expand that problem considerably.
I think you would end up making so many that you probably would be like, fuck my life. All the onion rings.
I think you underestimate my love of the spherical onion product.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, I would also probably have bloomin' onions at that point because I don't know if you've ever had Oh yeah, like that was. I think I had my first one ever at the P&E, and it was a pretty magical experience because it's basically like onion rings, but
it's the whole onion.
It's the whole onion.
Yeah,
and you have like this spicy dipping sauce, and it's just.
But like that's the key. Then you should open a food truck, and then what you do is you just have all the sauces, all the rings.
Do I call it Lord of the Rings? I mean, there could be copyright issues.
I guess it's better than put a ring on it.
Oh, you know what we could do? We could do like Lord O the Rings, like O apostrophe.
In ye old English.
Ye old English, that should solve everything.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe that's what we need to do. Maybe
so this is our new project.
We could travel North America in a food truck selling rings.
Selling. Yeah.
Think of
giving the people what they want.
Think of the marketing, for all those. If you are struggling to commit, come by and get a ring.
Oh,
right.
That's genius.
Better put a ring on it.
Yes.
Because what's better than something that, is cold and shiny, but something warm and greasy? It tells the future.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow. Gosh, my whole life has just, I feel, been leading up to this moment.
Now, see, if you're able to also figure out how to have a subsection of vegan onion rings.
Oh, that's easy.
Then we're golden. Right?
That's easy. I don't know if you know this, but onions are actually vegetables.
That's true. But everything else, that's like the one thing where they places like throw like the egg and the milk.
Well, yeah, because a lot of places, especially ones that have like this smooth, thicker batter, it's basically like a pancake batter. Yeah. Right. So yeah, you're going to probably have milk. But I mean, that's so easy to.
But that's something that's missing in a lot of those fast food worlds. That's true. Right?
You know what?
You just have the subclass of it. It doesn't have to be all vegan. Just an order of rings that's vegan, you probably hit it up well.
I feel like a Cajun style would do good, like Cajun seasoning and then like remoulade.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
See?
God, I mean this
an entire truck that just sells onion rings.
Yes. So
make things so much easier on just like all the food prep.
Are we just gonna like submit this to Shark Tank at some point then this episode?
Yeah,
can we tag them in this episode?
I doubt that they'll buy it just from
I
listening.
have no money, no resources, and no business plan. But you know what I have? Gumption and an idea.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's way better than half the stuff that they probably see on a daily basis. Yeah. So yeah. Okay.
Fair enough. We're golden.
We're golden. Right? Oh, that's another good name actually for an onion ring food truck. We're golden. Yeah.
That's the sub, That's a tagline.
Oh, maybe one of the. You know what?
Rings.
We're gonna save these for like names of dishes. Like we're golden could be like one of because they got to have like quirky. They ought to have like all the quirky names, right? Like you're gonna have your basic bitch onion rings, but you're gonna have like the Cajun one and then something golden. You could use maybe use yellow onions. Use the sweet like the Walla Walla ones. Yeah.
See,
I know my onions.
Yeah. Now the big question is, after this, are we gonna have to go find you onion rings? Because like it can see in your eyes, you're kind of salivating right now.
No, it's fine. It's fine. You know what? The onion rings don't control me. Okay. I don't need them. I appreciate them, but why are you looking at me like that?
I'm sure.
Why are you looking at me like that?
I can see that you feel like you're justifying it, but I don't believe it. I don't believe it one moment.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the French fry, though. I've actually stayed away from fries for a long time. I can't even tell you the last time I had fries.
Really?
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of sad at the same time. It's kind of depressing at the end of the day.
Honestly, since I moved into my new place, I've been just doing a lot more cooking too. So I have eaten out a lot less, which has been really, really good. Like I try and limit myself to just like once a week now. So it's doesn't always work out that way, but if you at least have that as a goal, I think you're on pretty good track. And and I mean I do love cooking too. And that's not to say that I won't make my own fries. I have not actually made my own onion rings yet. But
when the heat wave dies,
there you
go.
As soon as it's cold out there, there's going to be everything deep fried. Absolutely everything.
That was the thing Katie said. The moment it's cold, can you make pizza?
You haven't been making pizza?
Not in this heat.
That's fair. That's fair.
Not going to do that. No,
that's fair.
No, I'd like to, but at the same time, with working now too, I just don't like.
Oh, that's right. You have a job.
I've had like a couple days off now, and I was just kind of like, I ain't doing nothing.
Plus, I mean, working with beer, you probably just want to stay away from yeast.
No,
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 you're good.
No.
You're good. Okay.
no, I haven't gotten to that point yet where I'm like, no.
Now, here's a question: could you have an opportunity to make your pizza at work?
No, there's no cook space there.
That's a shame.
Yeah, no.
That's a shame.
I'd have to bring in like day old pizza or something.
Oh, no.
Like day old pizza's the bomb, man.
Is it good?
Yeah.
Well, that's good. That is that is the mark of a good pizza is how does it hold up the next day?
The last time
is it just as good cold as it is heated up? That is a good benchmark right there.
The last time I had pizza, we were out and we still had stuff in the fridge, and kiddo wanted food and he ate all 4 pieces that were left.
Wow.
And we were like, "What'd you have for lunch?" She said, "I had that pizza." And I was like, "You." Oh, it was painful. I was like, "You didn't even save one of us?" We're like, so. But why are we here today? Why did you come over to talk? We could talk about food all day. We could just make this a food episode.
We could. Maybe one day in the future we will do that. But let's.
There is a documentary I saw on Netflix called Street Food USA.
Oh yeah.
And it looked interesting because it didn't look like a cooking show. It looked more like the heart and the soul of cooking and all that of different street foods. And I was like, that's why I keep talking about food truck. I think food truck would be cool because you could just drive around like nomad lifestyle, drive around and sell food places.
You go where the customers are, right?
So, but yeah, no. Oh, I get sucked into watching Carnival Eats all the time.
Oh, there's some freaky stuff,
right? It's like almost of like stuff. You see that, and then you're like, challenge accepted. What can I do, right? And that's why I think having a food truck would be amazing because you could just really come up with some wild things.
But then you run into the issue of just because you can do something, should you?
Sometimes, yes.
Right, like
as right now, I'm thinking Carnival Eats, and I'm thinking onion rings.
Yes.
Nacho cheese sauce. And like guacamole and all that, like nacho onion rings.
Oh my God. So I am a big fan of the tachos, the tater tot nachos. Yeah. And I think that would be some kind of next level.
Because amazing. Like if you get that right batter, right? Yes. And like just those like, because people love dipping.
Yeah.
Right. So think of the things that you could do.
Brilliant. I just, my mind immediately goes to the deep fried butter, and I just feel ill. And because not only like have I seen them do like little chunks of deep fried butter, but I've seen people like deep fry entire blocks of butter. And I just like, why?
That's not, no.
Why?
Like, there's got to be some real food in there somewhere.
Like exactly. Like I even understand like deep fried Kool-Aid over that. Like that, I can totally see that as a thing. And I've seen it. I haven't eaten it. I have not actually been super adventurous in trying weird deep fried things. Although the one thing that I always indulge in at the Peony when I have the chance to go is a deep fried coffee.
Oh, those little balls.
Yeah.
We've had those. Those are good.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big coffee guy anyway, and it's basically just like little coffee flavored donuts, which I don't know why more places don't have coffee flavored donuts to begin with. Also, donuts, are basically like the onion ring of the dessert world. So
that's true.
I mean, I've argued many times.
We talked about sweet bagels, so why not savory donuts?
That's right. A
French onion donut.
By the way, I have also never heard of chocolate on a bagel before.
Hey man, they're out there. I've had chocolate.
Are they really out there? Do they exist?
When we lived in Reno, there was a place they had chocolate in it, chocolate chunks in the bagel, but it was a sweet bagel.
Strange.
There was nothing else in it. It was just like a plain bagel, but with like chocolate chunks in it.
Huh.
So
Marvel.
Well, okay, so yeah, Marvel. Let's as we salivate and start getting hungry and have to cut the episodes short because we have to go find lunch.
Yeah.
we'll see if we can get through this. There's actually a lot in this. This is phase 4 thus far.
Right. So what is phase 4 for those who are don't like, what does this all include basically? Like where are we picking up from? Because I actually thought phase 4, well, I assumed phase 4 started after Avengers Endgame, but that is not actually the case.
Yeah, so Spider-Man was like an epilogue. Almost.
Yeah, Spider-Man Far From Home.
Yeah,
which I assumed was the kickoff to Phase 4, was actually still apparently part of Phase 3.
Yeah.
So where do we begin with Phase 4?
Black Widow.
Black Widow was the first film. Yes. And that was for me a very big event, just because it was the first movie seen back in the theater after COVID.
Oh, you saw Widow in theaters?
I saw Widow in theaters, and that was the first Marvel movie I'd seen in theaters, I think, since Far From Home.
Oh, okay.
Well, because it was the first one released in theaters, but there was a big gap. Is what I'm saying, between
gap. They didn't even drop any of the TV during that time.
No, and it was Phase 4 is interesting because so much got pushed back and rearranged and juggled because of COVID. And it's interesting to go back and look at the original layout and the game plan and timeline for Phase 4 and realize that things drastically changed from what they were expecting. But Phase 4 was I was very curious about this, because watching Endgame was, I mean, an experience. A cinematic experience that is hard to find comparisons to.
Yeah.
And so I really wondered, where are we going now?
Right.
Where are we going next? And the beginning of Phase 4 really I realized really very slowly kind of started to lay the groundwork for it. And I was a little part of me felt like give us something, like let us see what's happening, like give us a little bit more than you're giving us, basically. Yeah. But then I realized at the same time, Phase 4 is starting like a whole new saga, basically.
Yeah.
And going back to Phase 1, I mean, Phase 1, we got the bittiest bit of breadcrumbs. Mm. So I guess that we can kind of expect the same thing, a bit of a slow start. And then as we get closer to Phase 6, which would be the theoretical end of this new saga, then I think we're going to see a lot of ramping up.
Yeah. I think with all those changes, and especially COVID and all that, creating those changes, I think that's what also has kind of put a bit of the unstructured feel to this phase.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's where it kind of was trying to lead. And then with everything, it really did make things hard for people to necessarily get to the theater to see those early ones, because they were chances, right? Like we watched Widow on Disney Plus.
Right. Because it was still, it was an on-demand thing as well.
Yeah, it was
right?
Like both, right? It was like, it was either theater or Plus.
Yes.
And then they got in their big dispute, and then everything else went to theater first. So
because the next movie, Shang-Chi, you saw in theater.
Yeah. And that was only a month later.
Yeah.
Right. And it was only in theaters. So,
all right.
So let's start with Widow. Let's talk about Widow. We'll go back to it.
Well, hold on. Yeah. We could start with Widow. I mean, technically, if we're going chronologically here, WandaVision did come out first, but are we doing like cinematic and then talking TV, or are we just going like cinematic and then, or are we just going like?
Well, Widow stands out on its own because it is actually not even really. It's part of Phase 4, but it's not.
Yes,
timeline wise,
exactly. Yeah, it is. It is very different in that,
except
sense.
For its end credit scene, which kind of jumps forward.
Yes,
right. So.
Which did set up further things in Phase 4 for sure.
But yeah, well, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go?
I'm totally fine. You know what? I kind of feel like let's do cinema and then let's talk TV.
Okay.
Because I feel like
then TV will most likely be in part 2.
Yes, followed by an update on the onion ring food truck and how that's going.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
sure. Let's tackle that. Let's go in the theatrical releases thus far.
Okay.
So Widow, yeah.
So what? Yeah, Widow. I mean, it was a solid film. I feel like, I did go back and rewatch it on Disney Plus, and I did still really enjoy it.
Yeah.
I have some family that is often reluctant to go watch these in the theaters, but then we'll always watch it when it's on streaming. So I get the chance to watch it with them, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
It was not, I would not say it was the highlight of Phase 4 for me, but I mean, it was a solid movie. And I think just the sheer joy of going back to the theater and seeing new Marvel content really kind of cemented it as definitely still having a special place in my heart because of that. So, I mean, I feel like it was a nice icebreaker back into Marvel after such a long break.
Very familiar.
Yeah.
We've watched it a couple times. It is probably my least favorite on this list.
Really?
You know, the movie started out really strong.
Okay.
For me, like that opening scene with the song and seeing all like the conditioning and the taking from families, and it felt way darker. But as the movie progressed, it got brighter and more grandiose, and I lost almost that Born Identity kind of Bond feeling that they were going for at the beginning, and then it became almost stereotypical Marvel fashion.
Yeah,
right. Like we went from like kind of this dark kind of like world, and then it was like, aha, we're in a comic book.
Yeah,
right. And that kind of, for me, and I didn't mind any of the changes that they made comic wise. I just felt like the tonal shift after rewatch, because I've never talked about it after our original watch. It kind of took away from it. I feel like it was a movie that should have been almost darker in tone, and went too kind of bright and silly at the end, especially with Harbor's Red Guardian, right?
Yes.
Right. So, and which is weird to see like those parallels between Widow and then Stranger Things 4. Right. Like, it's so weird to say, like, I have to escape a prison in Russia. It's like, wait, hold on.
Wait a minute.
But I think it's probably one of the weakest entries for me.
I would say of it's not. I wouldn't. For me, it's not my least favorite, but I would say it is. Like I said, it has a special place in my heart. Also because of my connection to the young actress in it who plays Black Widow, because she was also in the film that I got the chance to work on. Yeah. So having that little bit of a personal connection totally. Kind of makes it a little bit like, oh yeah, you go kid. But again, that was she was part of the beginning, which was sort of darker and a little grittier, and I will agree with you that I did enjoy that part more, and I wish, like you said, that it had kind of carried on a little bit more with that tone and that feeling. I think that would have been maybe a little better, but at the same time, it was a good story. It was interesting. It was kind of neat to fill in some gaps with the character, and it was really nice to see the character actually get a film as well.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Do you feel it was almost too late though?
Yes. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I feel like it's hard to say, because obviously if it had come earlier, we would have gotten a very different story, right? We wouldn't have gotten that same story. So, I mean, in terms of when it kind of filled in what it needed to fill in and gave us a little bit of more history to the character. But I feel like it would have been nice to see something more like that earlier on, because I think it would have given a lot more, like, as difficult as it was to watch watch her die in Avengers, I think that would have just having that extra background ahead of time would have just given more weight to that scene, and more, it would have been even more gut wrenching, which, you know.
Now, what if this had been the third film? If this had been the third Widow film, I feel if that had been the third Widow film, I think I probably would have accepted a lot of it more.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I could see that.
Or second or something like.
Yeah.
I feel like I think maybe that's where I'm a little salty about it.
Right.
Is I feel like we easily could have had two films or one film that just kind of didn't deal so much with her history.
Right.
Like just her as a spy almost.
And that is something I think we're going to talk about a lot. Maybe more so with the TV shows, but is that whole idea of dragged out origin stories.
Yeah.
Right. We're seeing that a lot, especially more so in the TV portions of Phase 4. But yeah, so I agree. I think if we'd had a little bit less of the origin, a little bit more of what was happening more in the present, then yeah, I think it could have been more enjoyable. But
because that's what I wonder about, like, I think it would have been a great end cap to a trilogy.
Yes,
because if you had had it where she was a bit stronger of a character throughout those movies, then her being softer in this final outing and kind of finding out more about her family and all that would have been kind of almost a satisfying reveal. Right.
Sure.
But I don't know. These things that ponder through my head of like, it feels like it was something else. Like there should have been almost just a little bit something. It was just missing. And that's where I go with that. So I know I'm just shitting all over it, aren't I? I'm just like,
no.
You're being all good. You're like, yeah. And
no, you know what? It's yin and yang, man. We need the balance, right? Not everything can be amazing all the time.
That's true. Right? But we did have that end credit scene where we get to find out about her sister.
Yes.
And her sister is being controlled by what's her nut? Yeah.
Yes.
Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Yes.
And Florence Pugh. That's how plays becomes kind of like the White Widow idea.
Yes.
Right.
And gets basically put on the scent of Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Because of course she's kind of manipulated into believing that it was all his fault that Widow died.
Yeah.
So, which, I thought was a really interesting twist. I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
And I liked it because it's it's a great manipulation.
Oh yeah.
On Valentina's part, because you're grieving and you're probably just you get told, hey, this is the person is responsible. You're not going to dive too deeply into that and go around and ask her friends, was it actually that,
right?
No,
yeah.
You're just going to go out for vengeance. So
yeah. No, I that was the one part that I thought was really cool. Like that was took you back a bit to the earlier credit scenes where like it was like the driving force forward of like, this is where we're going. Right. So like it was like, oh crap, like what are we going to get when we get the Hawkeye show? Right.
Exactly.
So I thought that was kind of cool. What do you think of Harbor's Red Guardian?
It was interesting. Like he was so very clearly just meant to be comic relief.
Yeah.
And it really could have gone either way with him. He could have been like just the super serious, like they could have made him like a very dark, almost deranged, like he's been in prison this whole time.
Yeah.
It's probably warped him a little, because he was manipulated into believing that he was going to be the Captain America, and then ended up being basically tossed in prison because he was too much of a loose cannon. So, he could have gone down a very dark path with that character, or it could have been the comic relief. And in the end, they went with the comic relief.
Yeah.
Do I think it would have been better if he was darker? I don't honestly know.
I don't. That's the one thing. As much as I said comic booky, I feel like his character fit in well enough to bring some humanity to it.
Yes,
right.
I do.
Because the mother was so dark, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it. I think it would be fun to see him again.
Yes, it would.
But I just don't know where.
Yeah.
Like, I know now this is going ahead, but Thunderbolts is coming. I wonder, it's the big who is going to be in Thunderbolts.
Right. There is a lot of questions about that. I mean, there's a lot of speculation. I've seen a lot of speculation, and a lot of the reasoning makes sense behind some of the guesses. But yeah, that would be a really interesting addition to Thunderbolts.
Right.
And now, sorry, forgive my ignorance here. Thunderbolts. It's a film, right? It's not a series.
It is a film, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's going to be, they announced at Comic-Con that it's going to be a film.
Right.
So that does change things dramatically.
It does.
Right? But we'll speculate as time goes on. Who out of this phase is going to show up in Thunderbolts, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that would be one character that would be interesting to see, because I wouldn't mind seeing him back. It'd be cool to see him maybe have gotten in shape again and is doing something. Right?
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting now too, because I feel like with the whole Captain America story arc, like because he always saw Captain America as his big rival, right? Yeah. He had all these stories about, facing off with him that were, of course, not entirely accurate.
Right.
But now that we have, the old man Cap, and then now, of course, the new Captain America, it would be interesting if he came back, if he saw that as like motivations, like, oh, that Cap's gone, there's a new Cap. I could totally be this Cap's rival. And, I think I stand a chance against this guy. He doesn't even have super strength.
Yeah.
So, that could be an interesting way to bring him back into it too. And I think a reasonable motivation for him to, like you said, get back in shape and
also U.S. agent.
Yes, of course. Oh man, I hate that guy.
Right. So there's lots of potential there for them to bring back the Red Guardian.
That's
for something, and especially with the political climate that it is, I could see
it would be. I mean, especially if they keep him as like the almost goofier comic relief, it's really like a jab at Russia, really, to keep him as kind of like the goofball character. So
totally.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
Okay, well, I think we've kind of delved into. Well, actually, one thing we haven't talked about, was there any of the scenes that you really liked in Widow, like specific scenes? Because we also didn't talk about Taskmaster and how they changed that character.
Right.
See, I didn't care about that because I'm not a big Taskmaster fan.
No, I didn't really care too much. Like, I knew the basics about Taskmaster, but I didn't have like a strong connection to the character in any way. So I was fine with how they did it. Marvel, I think, sometimes suffers from lackluster villains in general. And this was not a particularly memorable villain.
No. They kind of did the whole Mandarin feel with it.
Yeah.
Whereas it wasn't exactly what people were expecting, and then it didn't turn out to be a big baddie, right?
Okay, I was actually kind of disappointed, honestly, with the whole Mandarin thing, because I was really when I heard the Mandarin was going to be in that movie, I was really excited
for Iron Man 3.
For Iron Man 3, yes. Little did I know that it was going to end up creating this opportunity later on in our next film, Shang-Chi, to bring him back and be one of the shining jewels of that film.
Oh yeah.
So, but in terms of like favorite scenes in Black Widow, I think one of the most memorable scenes for me is the prison break.
Okay.
The helicopters and and there's a lot of really cool action there. That I feel like that had a very James Bond feel to it.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that. And Yeah, honestly, I really liked actually the just the interactions between her and her sister and Red Guardian and her mother and all that. Just the family dynamic was fun to watch.
Fair enough,
when they were reunited. So
I found my favorite scene came from when they first where her sister and her meet in that fight scene, because that fight scene was so visceral versus the later fight scenes, which seemed so over the top. Right. And I really liked how just intense that scene was.
That was at the apartment in Budapest. Budapest.
Yeah, that was my favorite. That was my favorite scene, and I'd hoped that it was going to stay grounded more. Yeah, and like the breakout scene was awesome because it made sense to be grand. Yes. But that final scene for me, that was one of those few times where I was like, they just went for the CG. Yeah, and I think that's maybe why I'm not super happy with it. Is because I was expecting it to be more grounded. A bit more of like, especially with Taskmaster being it, that we're going to see some really kick-ass fight scenes.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
So, but you know what movie did have some kick-ass fight scenes? Shang-Chi.
What movie is that?
Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
Oh, man. So this was the second film in Phase 4. And honestly, I did not know a lot about Shang-Chi before this movie. I'd never read any of the comic books. I had seen the character once or twice peripherally in certain things, but did not know much about him. So, I mean, I usually do like a little bit of research if I don't know anything about the character before going to the movie. But at the same time, I also just like seeing the on-screen interpretation and just basing it on that and not off of, the years and years of comic books, because as we've seen, so many characters end up differentiating from their comic counterparts anyway. Yeah. So
you have to almost think of the MCU as like what Marvel did with their Ultimates line.
Exactly. Where they retooled everything.
Yeah, where they pick where they need it and they fit things in so that you get that, versus maybe creating new characters that don't have a legacy or an idea. So then people are like, where the hell did this character come from? Where they can reuse and reimagine something to fit. So
yeah. I think the last time that I was kind of in this position with a Marvel movie was Guardians of the Galaxy. Again, like I had seen some little bits and pieces of them here, didn't really know much about them though, and then went in and was just completely delighted with the film and it. So going into Shang-Chi, I had pretty high hopes. Yeah, I had seen the trailers and they looked pretty cool. I was really looking forward to the action. I mean, I love watching old kung fu movies, and I love seeing stylized martial arts fights, even like the fancy wire work flipping through the air ones. Like it's entertaining, right? It's fun to watch. I like the realistic, less stylized fights as well, but those are always fun to watch. So I was really, I did go in with high expectations for this film because it is Marvel too, and they have a pretty decent track record. So I gotta say, I was pretty just overall enamored with this film. This is probably it's definitely in my top 3 for this phase, if not, number 1. I mean, it's pretty high up there. And one thing that I really liked about this is it was a very good standalone movie. And we'd seen so much, building up to Endgame. There was so much, just everything's connected to everything. And it was nice to see this where you could just kind of come at it without any prior knowledge of the character, without even not even having to know that much about the MCU, and still just appreciating what a amazingly well done movie this was. Like the choreography was beautiful. Yeah, I just loved it. I can't say enough good things about this movie.
Well, see, where like say Black Widow was expecting more grounded, this one allowed for so much more excitement.
Yes.
Because the fact moment in the title tells you legend of, meaning legends usually tend to embellish. They intend to have mystical connotations, right? So it allowed it to break into that whole world of the mysticism. And right out the bat, it just went running with some really kick-ass action scenes. And everything just felt organically fun and exciting. And pacing didn't change through the movie. The characters were likable. They explained a lot of things quickly. It doesn't really feel like it drags, but then it has those ties to the MCU by going back and dealing with Trevor Flattery from Iron Man 3. And, you know, almost then calling Marvel out as a comic company for being like, y'all racist when you made this character. And now we're going to try to right those wrongs with this Ultimates version, say, of this character, like this cinematic version of this character. And there was so much heart and so much story in it that, yes, you're right. It fits near the top for Phase 4 because it doesn't rely on what's come before it.
Yes.
It doesn't necessarily rely on needing to go forward, but it also doesn't rely on nostalgia to put it up there, right?
Yes.
And I think you know which one I'm talking about with nostalgia, right?
Yeah.
That idea where it stood on its own legs, and it made something that I think was exciting and thrilling. Like, I'm kind of sad to see that within the next phases that they released in Comic-Con, that there isn't a Shang-Chi 2 yet.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, actually that is a good point. That seems like a really big omission.
Right? Because I think I enjoyed this just as we watched the film like 3 times.
Yeah.
Right? I think it's more like, I really like Black Panther. I thought that was a great film.
Yes.
Same idea where it stood on its own 2 legs.
Absolutely.
Right? But Black Panther had the ability of being in Civil War, which gave you that taste before. We've never had a taste of this film.
No.
And that's where, I really got a kick out of it. And then just even like the dragon and like all that shit, like, you know,
that honestly, like the dragon was so cool. Like that whole scene was amazing. But like that first major fight scene on the bus to me is like one of the most standout fight sequences of almost any Marvel movie that I have ever seen.
Oh, it was so thrilling.
It was so good. And there was no superpowers really involved, really, when you think about it. I mean, you know,
severe childhood trauma training, but
sure. And I mean, there was the Razor Fist. Was Razor Fist? Yeah. So I mean, we had a sword hand, but that's not really a superpower.
Not at all.
So I mean, that to have a fight in the MCU that doesn't involve superpowers whatsoever, and it's like one of the best, most memorable fights. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Oh, totally. Well, and then add in that he never questioned anything.
Nope.
And he was a hero just from the get-go.
Yes.
Right? It wasn't, he didn't have to be convinced into it.
No.
It was someone came up, pushed him around, and it was like, you know, fuck off.
Yeah.
Like, and then the realization, these are bad dudes, and you know, he's helping those people. Like, I thought that was really cool to see that at his core, he is a good being.
Yes.
Right? Without any, almost like he never even really had that much. At the end, he had that confidence, kind of like, holy crap, things are crazy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it shows that he was a hero right from the get-go. Like,
yes.
You know, pushed past his father's conditioning and what they wanted to be. Right. So.
And I love his relationship with his BFF.
Yeah.
Like oh my gosh.
Their banter is fantastic.
And I love that they just have, it's just such a pure friendship. Like it's it was just a joy to watch and to not see them fall into like a bunch of tropes and stereotypes with that relationship. Like it just remained this absolutely pure, I got your back, you got mine, let's do this kind of thing, right? And then to also see her come into her own in the film and be like an integral part of the to the point where, you know, at the very end, you know, Wong takes them both. Yeah, he's not just there for him; he's there for both of them. Yeah. So I thought that was really cool. That was really. I did not like, you know, you kind of expect that it's going to turn into at some point the damsel in distress, right? You expect that, oh, this person's is there so that they can get kidnapped and rescued. Yeah. Right.
And she had her moment.
She did. But really, I mean, it was just, it was so, I just found it so rewarding to watch her growth as a character and her inner strength come out, and just, you know, her, you know, someone who was portrayed as so kind of directionless in the beginning and then finding like a purpose and really, really excelling at it. So yeah, I enjoyed that.
Yeah. No, totally. Like that. Yeah. I also love seeing the Dragon Ball references. I thought that was really cool with him wearing Goku's colors. When he went over to the fight pit at first, right, with the orange, and then just the giant Kamehameha at the end with the rings. Like, that was just super cool to see. Right.
That was pretty awesome. So now, now the interesting thing too is that, one of the interesting parts of the film too is the role his sister plays. And actually, before I talk about that though, I want to talk about another thing I really appreciated about that film, and that was the way that they slowly and very intentionally revealed his backstory. I love the way they did that, because you only got just what you needed to know for the next part of the film. Yeah. You didn't get it wasn't a whole big dump. Yeah. And it was parceled out in the perfect way that that it was just it really kept you still rooted in what was happening in the moment in the film, but also explaining the backstory and all that. So I really appreciated that. Now, his sister, really interesting because of the fact that she is, at best, looks like becoming sort of an anti-hero. Yeah. You know, continuing, as we find out at the very end, after the post-credit scene where we find out? Yeah, that she's kind of, instead of dismantling her father's empire, she's rebuilding it, reformatting it. Which, you know, again, does that make her a potential candidate for Thunderbolts?
Yeah, I feel that she's going to be the foil for if they ever get to Shang-Chi too. Right. Because he's not going to be happy about that, because he was under the impression that she was supposed to be taking this thing down. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. But that would be an interesting puzzle piece to see if she gets pulled into that. Because I could see that, you know, she gets arrested. I feel Thunderbolts is going to be MCU's Suicide Squad.
Yes. Right. Absolutely. That is 100% what they're going for with that. I mean, there's no, and I think the part of the reason that we haven't seen it, or that it's taken this long, is because honestly, the Suicide Squad didn't really take off right away with the original film. And then with the more recent version of it going absolutely bonkers, because it's a brilliant, fantastic film. I think now it's interesting to see Marvel trying to play a little catch up with DC for a change.
For that, for one film.
For one film. For one.
Wait one moment.
Let's not get into the tiny dumpster fire that is the DC film universe right now, because that would be another probably whole session on its own.
Oh yeah.
DC dumpster fire, episode 186 of Cup of Red.
No, I'm pretty sure 186 is going to be part 2 of 4 here.
Part 2 of 4. Yeah, we're not progressing very quickly, are we?
That's okay. It's still good conversation. It's great to know other feelings on things, right? Like, from that Shang-Chi, we jump into the Eternals.
Yes, the Eternals. Very different Marvel film.
You went to the theaters.
I did see this in the theater. You did not.
We waited until it hit Disney Plus in January.
Yes. I am just the diehard Marvel person that I will probably never not see it in theater. And again, this is something that I did not know a lot about. Going into it, though, I had lower expectations, mostly because the trailer, nothing in the trailer particularly like grabbed me like, oh, this is going to be so
and
epic.
that's why we never went,
right?
Because it was like the hard sell. Like it never looked interesting enough.
I think it's difficult when you do a movie like this that's in a large ensemble cast and you have to try and make everyone care about all of these brand new characters that you've never seen before without making it like a giant, 3-hour origin story and also, keep the action up, keep it interesting and have a storyline. And I feel like with the Eternals, it was not my favorite. I mean, I'm probably going to say that Eternals is at the bottom of Phase 4 for me. And it's not to say that I didn't enjoy many parts of the film, because I did. Like I thought it took a while to get going, I thought, and I didn't really feel like it hit its stride until probably about 45-minute mark or so. But I feel like even though it might not have been the best Marvel movie, I think it was necessary to introduce certain elements and certain parts to the Marvel universe that are going to be important later on. And unfortunately, it was just, I think, maybe there would have been a better way to introduce these elements, but I feel like it accomplished what it needed to accomplish. It wasn't a bad movie by any means. Like I never thought it was a bad movie. It just never really kind of like pulled me in. There was nothing that really stood out about it. For me. That being said, like, I mean, it's a very interesting concept with the Eternals, but again, with all of those characters, there was, I think it's hard to write for that and make them all likable and you want to root for all of them. Because there were characters in that movie that I legitimately did not like and did not care about.
And that's the thing. I felt, I don't remember any of their names.
Right.
We watched it once.
Yeah.
It was okay. You know what? The one person I remember the name was the end credits with Harry Styles, Star Fox.
Yes. Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's Harry Styles.
But like, I don't remember anybody else really. Like,
there was Sprite.
Okay. Yeah.
She was the really young one, and she was the one that I actually disliked the most. I did not feel any connection with that character whatsoever. Did not care what happened with that character whatsoever.
Because then they had the what, Athena or whatever.
It was Athena. Yeah, that was Angelina Jolie's character. There was
but like, it shouldn't be this hard.
No, it shouldn't be this hard. And
so here's my question. Should they have made part of this story either part 2 of 1 and made 2 movies, or should they have taken advantage of the television aspect and told a prequel story that maybe like 6 episodes that kind of explain the history of the Eternals, and then had the part of this movie go to theater and sort of be the event film to that series?
See, now that's interesting that you say that, because now that I think about it, it felt more like a Marvel TV series than it did a movie.
Yeah.
Like I felt like you could have broken that up into, like you said, like maybe like 6 episodes. And I think it would have been easier to digest in that sense. And I think, you know, would have given you more time to, you know, sit with the ideas and maybe expand on a few things as well, right?
Yeah.
You have more time.
Because that's what I've wondered. I wondered, like, if they had gone ahead and cut out some of that beginning fat,
Yes,
and expanded the end,
yes,
where the actual like battle, where almost the idea where if they'd taken one episode per character or couple of characters,
yes,
explain their history through it, and then at the end of that series, they will return in the Eternals, the whatever, give it a subtitle, and then it's the movie was them coming back together without having to tell those backstories and have the threat.
See, now that could have solved the issue of not particularly caring about some of the characters,
because you could have then had 2.5 hours to tell the threat idea,
yes,
and then had 6 hours to give us, because it feels like they needed more.
Yes.
And that's where I struggled with the film. Yeah. Visually, it's a fun, interesting film.
It is.
And there's some great cinematography in it. But because we don't get much time with any of them.
No.
They all just feel throwaway. They all just feel like, you know, it feels like noise.
Yes.
It feels like noise within something that should have been more focused. Because you're right. For me, it's in the bottom. Yeah. Like it's under Widow at the bottom just because of the fact that I don't remember a lot from it.
Exactly. And despite the fact that I remember very little about it, I don't have a strong desire to rewatch it either.
No, we've watched it once and we've never gone back.
Yeah. And I don't know that I would ever want to. I think this is I think this is probably the first time I've ever seen a Marvel movie where I've been like, where I haven't thought, oh man, I hope they do a sequel.
Yeah. But like it needs a sequel because of how it ended.
It does. And the thing is, like I said, I think it was necessary because it did introduce concepts that are going to be important for the upcoming phases. But I think you hit the nail on the head though. I think it needed to be as a TV series instead.
Yeah. Yeah. There's just something more to it. And that was the kind of that weird kind of moment. This is the start of the end credit scenes switching.
Yes.
In this phase, where they start introducing a character,
right?
Less about a breadcrumb of where it's going,
right?
So
that's right, because this one there was Kit Harington's character, basically, on the verge of becoming the Black Knight. Black Knight, right? And then we also got that just little audio burst, which turned out to be Blade. Yeah. So, which, I mean, I was actually a really big fan of the Blade films, even though they were super cheesy, but I loved. I mean, I
1 and 2 were great.
1 and 2, yes, 1 and 2 were great. The first one especially was really good, and I remember it being like, it was one of the first time I'd watched like a really super gore fest, kind of like horror film. But I really liked the original Underworld films, and and they just really they took a very steep downward turn. But that first one I quite liked. Big fan of Kate Beckinsale, but for her obvious acting abilities, yes. But I'm really excited that they are bringing Blade back, and they are redoing it, because I think it's a really interesting character. I think the movies really did not delve deep enough into the mythology with that character, and I think there's so much that they could do, so I'm hoping that this retreatment is going to be good.
But also too, the idea of that one actually gave you, because you got the Harry Styles, and that led really nowhere, as a breadcrumb. But then you had the Black Knight, and then you had Blade's voice, right? So you have those two kind of, because whereas Shang-Chi discuss more about the rings, right?
Yes.
And then Widow then gave you the breadcrumb to go to the Hawkeye series.
Yes.
So that was the interesting kind of moments there with that.
Right. Black Widow was really Black Widow and Shang-Chi really were the last ones that kind of dropped hints at future things rather than just like, oh, here's a thing, here's a person.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So I think that was kind of the interesting fact for that. Because later on we find out more of just like the drop of a character.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, this is looking to be really bigger than we expected because we've only talked about 3 films. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back with a part 2 and possibly a part 3, most likely a part 3, maybe a part 4. Does that sound good to you?
That sounds fantastic to me. I am down.
Because that's, just like the MCU, there's multiple episodes.
That's right. This is phase 1 of the phase 4.
Yeah, that's a good one. So you know what? Thank you everyone for listening, and come back in a few days and there'll be another episode for you, or a week. Who knows? We'll see.
With me.
Yeah.
So,
And remember, stay rad, dudes.